Hello everyone, I am Dr. Manika Gupta. I am an assistant professor at Department of Geology, University of Delhi. Today in this module we will be discussing about GIS overlay spatial analysis. Now in this module you will be able to understand how GIS overlay spatial analysis is important for decision making in like flood mapping or groundwater potential zone mapping or any kind of hazard mapping. You will be able to understand what kind of methods can be utilized for this overlay analysis, which includes Boolean algebra and weighted analysis and some other methods to have the overlay of spatial analysis. Now coming to the introduction. So as you know, GIS or the Geographic Information System is recently advanced into every field and it is being considered as an important topic. Now in decision making, how can GIS be helpful? In decision making, GIS helps us in a way because we are able to spatially overlay different layers which are available to us, and we can make decisions based on this overlay of the spatial maps or thematic maps. Now what is overlay? Overlay implies that we have two separate thematic maps and we integrate or overlay both of these maps together, and once we have done this we can reach to a certain decision or we can analyze it on the basis of a certain criteria. So that is what your spatial overlay analysis is done. Now before we attempt spatial overlay analysis, we need to be sure that both the features are geographically of the same area, they are registered to the same domain, and they have been properly co-referenced together. Once that is done, then only we can have a spatial overlay analysis. To give you a picture of this, first of all you need to know that both vector and the raster data can be spatially overlaid upon each other. The first thing which we will consider here is a vector overlay method considering point and polygon method. Now what is point and polygon method implies? As it is suggested, I'll draw two features. One is your point feature and other is the polygon feature. So point feature implies, suppose I collect the data at 3 points A, B and C, and for the same area I have a polygon data, suppose this. So I have 4 polygons here and maybe this is 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now when I have a polygon data, because this is for the same area, we can overlay this over this. What do I mean by overlaying? Overlaying means I create a new image in GIS where we have those same polygons plus we have the point data. So this is A, point B and C, and this was actually land use 1, 2 and 3. So here you just overlaid the two images on one above the other. Now you can see, we know if suppose this land use represents a vegetative field and this was suppose as our soil data, we can know the vegetation and the soil data from only one thematic map. We do not need two separate thematic maps. So that is what, and finally the output of this would be something like this. So the ultimate data is again based on this point. So this is a point and polygon, but the information for this is now A and 1, and this is because it's within 2 and the point is B, so here we would have B2. So in this overlaying method, what is happening? So, the point and the polygon features are being integrated together and the attribute data is being integrated together. So you get all the attribute information for both the layers in a single layer, but it would still remain as a point data. So this is one kind of overlay method. When we talk about a second overlay method, line and polygon. So as the name suggests and you can understand, we have one feature data which has a line data. Suppose that's a road data. So this line represents a road, and another data, feature data, we have the polygon data. So suppose this is our polygon and this polygon represents our urban area. Now if we overlay this image over this layer, you'll get something like a road passing, and then we have a line data. So you will see that this road is connecting here and here in this image. So we can have 3 segments of the road based on this overlay analysis. So final output of this would be, actually you will get one segment, a second segment, and third segment. I have put in a gap just to let you understand that it's single road which has been divided into 3 features. So now each of these features would be added to this layer data now, and it's a new output for you. So finally this was in line and polygon. Our third overlay involves polygon in polygon. So suppose you have 2 polygon data. For your ease I am using straight lines for the polygons. So this is 4 polygons here and another feature layer here where we have only 2 data. So as you can understand, the output should be similar to the line and the point data. We again, because this is your first layer, so this will have again 4 polygons, but the data which would be here is A1, C1, B2 and D2. So in all the 3 methods you can see that the first data is maintained and the second layer is attribute is inputted into the first layer. So that is what is known as overlaying method in vector. The similar approach can also be applied to a raster data, and you can try to do this. Now you will see here we did not make any kind of decisions or the criteria taken. Everything was as such taken up in the output layer. What about if we want to make some kind of decisions and we want to see or meet certain criteria? Suppose you want to employ an erosion potential area. So for erosion, you would like to see whether the slope is steep, whether it is barren. So if it's only a soil and there is no vegetation and it's a slopy area, the erosion potential would be higher. So here you want to make certain decisions based on the thematic features. That is why we come into play using Boolean algebra, and I am sure you would be knowing Boolean algebra from your mathematics class where it was based on your Venn diagrams. The Boolean methods allow you to create conditions or logical statements so that you can understand whether the spatial location has something as true or something as not true. The 4 basic Boolean methods which are utilized in GIS overlay are your union, intersection, exclusive disjunction and negation. So starting from the first, that is union, suppose you have 2 layers. One represents your land use land cover, that is suppose we have 4 land covers here, and there's another data, again 4 polygons, and it represents our soil type. So maybe this is clay soil, this is also clay soil, this might be loamy, and this is sandy soil. So we have 3 soil types here, and we have 4 land use land cover. Now what do I mean by union? Union would imply I need all the information from the first layer and all the information from the second layer. So when we talk about union, so suppose we have 2 layers here. One is representing a land use land cover and the other layer is representing the soil type. So in land cover you can see we have 4 polygons, and similarly in the clay soil and sandy soil and loam soil are also representing 4 polygons here. Now when we want to do a union, we could have, similarly as in the previous one, we could have all true and we could have the attributes for everything here. But now in this case what are we doing? We are justifying a criteria of a union where we say if it's either agricultural or clay soil. When either agricultural is present, it should be true, or clay soil is present, it should be true. So if you will notice, where agricultural is there, clay soil is there, it is 1. Even this is 1, even though the soil is loam type, but it was agricultural, so this is 1. Similarly, here we have urban area, but the soil type was clay, so again here it is 1. So the Boolean algebra which is being represented by this output is the OR. So OR is implying you that you can have either the first condition is true, that is the pixel should have agriculture, or the second is true, that the pixel should have clay soil. So when either of these conditions are true, we get the value of 1, otherwise we have a false value. From this we go to another Boolean algebra, that is intersect. So what does this imply? Because we are talking about AND logical, that means either of the condition is true is not here. Here both the conditions should be true. So if we look at the similar figure which we had for OR, you will notice that one is only in one of these pixels, that is the left hand corner. Why is that? Because we want to satisfy a condition, it should be agricultural area and it should be clay soil. So that is being satisfied in this only in the first pixel. Other pixels might have agricultural or they might have clay soil, but both the conditions being satisfied only in one pixel. So that pixel is true and rest of the 3 pixels are 0. So depending upon your requirement, you will decide whether you want to use OR logical or you want to use an AND logical. The third method which can be utilized in Boolean algebra is your exclusive disjunction. This is a logical operation for XOR or XOR. What happens in this logical operation? Again you have those same 2 input layers, but now we are suggesting a true condition when either of the condition is true but not both. So here in the 4th pixel you have agricultural and loam soil. So agricultural is satisfied but clay soil is not satisfied. That is why this is 1. Similarly in the 3rd pixel, agriculture is not there but clay soil is there. So again it's 1. But if you will notice, the first pixel which was true before is now false because it's agricultural as well as clay soil. So this comes to a false condition. So you will realize that depending on what you need, you can have different false and true conditions here. Last is the negation logical, or which is also known as the not logical. So what is happening here? Here we decided to have 2 criterias, where first we need to satisfy that the pixel value is agricultural but the soil is such that it is not clay. So if we look at what is not clay, we get the pixel number 3 and pixel number 4. But we also need to simultaneously satisfy a criteria where it is agricultural, that is only pixel number 3. So in this case you get a true condition only for pixel number 4 and not in either of the 3 pixels which are left, and they are considered to be false. So in the Boolean methods, you would notice that we are giving the equal criteria to each of the layers we considered, whether that was a land use land cover feature or was it the soil type feature. We were not giving an unequal importance to either of the layers. But what happens in the decision making if you want to give different importance to each of the layers? Why would we want that? Suppose you are calculating your erosion potential, then a steeper slope would be of a more importance, or when you are calculating runoff potential, a steeper slope would be more important and a soil would be more important as compared to the vegetation type. So you would like to give more importance in calculation of the feature or the thematic map based on the weightage. That is why we also employ spatial techniques here which are known as weighted overlay methods. Now weighted overlay methods can be based on a lot of stuff, like first is weighting by ranking. Now what do we imply by that? Suppose you have X layers and you provide ranking to them, suppose 1 to 9, and these amount to being total number of rankings be Y. So you have 3 methods here to discuss how can you rank it and how many ranks would be there. Then the weightage for this would be actually X plus Y minus 1. This is one of the methods to determine the ranks or the weightage, and the another method based on the ranks could be, instead of this we could simply have 1 upon Y. So 1 upon Y here, based on the rank, the weightage would depend for each of these layers. So whichever layer we give the rank 1 would have a weightage of 1 upon 9. So similarly the 9th would be actually 9 by 9. So you would notice that the highest weight would be given to 9 by 9. So these are the 2 methods based on the ranking. You can give the weightage to each of the layers which you have. Now this weightage based on the ranking was one of the methods. The second is weightage by scoring. Now scoring is similar to ranking, but with every rank we also give the scores for each of the layers. Scores may vary between 0 to 100. So based on how much weightage we have to give to each of the layers, we give a score of suppose 20 to one of the layers and 50 to another of the layers. The total score here varies between 0 to 100, which you need to be careful about. Our third method of weighted overlay analysis is multi-criteria evaluation method, which is based on the analytical hierarchy process given by Satie. In this process, we provide the weightage to each of the layers and we create a matrix for this condition. Here suppose we create a suitability matrix from a value of 0 to 255 and we say which has a higher suitability and which might have a lower suitability. To a lower suitability we give a value of 0 and to a higher suitability we give a value of 255. So based on the importance of each of the layers, we can easily create a criterion or a matrix as is shown in this particular table. So if you will look here, we have a table where we have 3 layers C1, C2 and C3. Now each of these layers is given a relative importance as against the other. So if you notice here we have 1, 9 and 3. 9 value implies that has been given the most of the importance, while 1 is a preference between the two datas, but it is the lowest amount of preference. Now this matrix is similarly, you see the reciprocals of these when you see 1 by 9 and 1 by 3 between C2 and C1. The diagonals are representing, that is 1 and 5. The 1, 1, 1 is actually between the C1, C2 and the C3 itself. So that is your diagonal. Above the diagonal is the relative importance for each of the factors with the other layers. The below the diagonal is just your reciprocal what was above. So this is your comparison matrix for the 3 layers. Now we need to calculate the weights based on these importance given to each of the layers. How do we calculate the weights? For calculating the weights, we first need to obtain the priority vector or the eigenvalues. For calculating these eigenvalues, the factors are normalized. These were the factor values. Now these are normalized based on the dividing each cell by column total. So your column total is suppose 1.44 and your vector is 1. So you divide that factor with the column total and you get this value. So this forms your normalized data. Once you get these normalized data, you get the priority vector by adding it for each of these factors. So this priority vector is basically determining what weightage is being given to each of these classes. Now this was a very subjective task where you decided, okay, the first layer has to be a ranking of 1, the second has to be ranking of 9. How do we make sure that the subjective ranking which we have here is consistent or not? So to choose what is consistent, we determine a consistency ratio which is calculated as given in this equation here. The consistency index and a ratio of random index. This random index values have already been given by Satie in the 1980 paper and you can refer to that. But the consistency equation index is given based on this equation. Now lambda max here is your principal eigenvalue which is calculated as summation of the product of the total columns from table 1. So if you look at this equation, the lambda max is the principal eigenvalue which can be obtained by summation of the products of all the columns in the table 1 and priority vectors in table 2. So the ratio of this total divided by this, the total here which we get, you will get a CI index. Now if this CR index is greater than 0.1, then some of the pairwise values need to be reconsidered. What do we mean by reconsideration? We mean that the values which we assigned here needs to be changed and you cannot have 1, 9 and 3. However, if the CR value is less than 0.1, then the indexes or the ranking you gave can be taken as such. Once you have checked for the consistency, you can employ this criteria where you get the suitability score, or the suitability score in this equation tells you how much of the vulnerable area is. So the suitability score which you get usually varies between 0 to 100. In this score we usually consider something like, if it's between 0 to 25, it's considered better, and as the score increases we can show whether the area where we are doing it is more vulnerable or there is more hazard in the area. So the multi-criteria evaluation can easily help you in understanding the vulnerability of an area. Suppose for an example we have a groundwater potential zone. So calculating for the groundwater potential zone, we need different thematic layers to decide whether there would be a groundwater potential zone or not. Based on those layers, we inform, and the criteria we get, we inform whether it's a groundwater zone or not. The layers which we can use here would be your, like for example, land use, land cover. Another layer which can be the lineaments. Another would be something else like steepness of the slope, or maybe vegetation, or whatever you think is important in delineating a groundwater potential zone. Other areas where which you can use this can be in the flood mapping also. So these were the three methods for the weighted overlay analysis. Once you have done this, we also have another approach which are known as overlay operations. Now what is happening in overlay operations? These overlay operations are a bit different from the Boolean algebra operations or the weighted overlay analysis. How are these different? These methods are different because we are just overlaying two themes on top of the other, but we are not making any decision based on one of the other. We are neither changing the attributes of the other data. The attributes still remain the same for the first data, and they are not taking it from the second data. So how is it helpful? Why do we need to overlay the two images? We need to suppose we have a satellite data and we need to extract a watershed area. So if we have a shapefile of watershed, we can extract the raster data from that file. For this, I'll show you a picture here or a figure here, and it will be more clear to you. Now, as you can see this image, we have three layers here. One is your raster layer, the second is your overlaid layer with a polygon here. So your second layer is actually a polygon layer. So we are showing in this figure a overlay operation that is known as clip or clipping. So what is happening here? You extracted a satellite data, then you overlaid a polygon over that data, and you extracted the raster only for that polygon area, and you get this image. But you will notice, unlike the Boolean averages algebra, here the attributes of this polygon are not added to this. It's still the same raster data, only that we have clipped it, and it represents the shape of the polygon which we want to study. So this is a clip overlay operation. Similarly, we might be interested in erasing a certain area. So I have taken as an example the same picture or the figure we had for the clip. So we have the same raster data, we have the same polygon data, we overlay over our raster data, and we erase whatever is inside this polygon. So you will notice an empty space here, but the same raster has all the attributes outside the polygon as in the first figure. So this is helpful if you want to erase some of the data from a polygon feature. So you will notice in both the case, even though our first data can be raster, our second data is usually a polygon feature. We do not use a feature like the point feature or the line feature, because you cannot clip something based on the line feature. So you clip on the or erase on the basis of a polygon feature here. This polygon technique can also be applied on your vector data. Now in this third operation, overlay operation, we have a condition for splitting our first input layer. Now our first input layer here also can be both raster or a vector layer, but our splitting layer should always be a polygon. I have made it a square just to make it convenient for you to understand. So if we overlay this second layer over the first layer, you will notice we will get 4 intersection points, and the output layer can be split into 4 different polygons or the raster inputs. So from one input layer we can actually get 4 layers based on the polygons which we have in the splitting layer. So that is what splitting operation does. Again, in this also the attributes is maintained for only the input layer. None of the attributes of the splitting layer are incorporated in the output layer. So these were the 3 overlay operations where only the attributes of the input layer are maintained and not of the second or the splitting or the clipping layer are maintained. Now all the 3 methods of overlaying, that is your overlay operations, overlay weightage analysis, or simply overlaying methods where we had line in polygon or feature in point in polygon or polygon over polygon, these are very important in GIS. However, we need to remember that there can arise some problems due to overlaying. Now, how can overlaying result in errors? The first error, which is the most common error, is based on a polygon in polygon approach. What happens in polygon approach? Sometimes when the 2 feature layers have been digitized separately, there might be a minor change in digitization. So this minor problem results in small polygons at the lines where the 2 polygons interact, and these are known as slivers in GIS. So you need to be careful with these slivers, and you need to clip in any of the GIS softwares these slivers and integrate the polygon layers easily or equally at these junctions where you get the slivers. Until and unless you do this properly, this can create a problem once you are deciding a suitability index for these overlaid thematic maps. The second error is known as the error of propagation. Sometimes when you have digitized layers, there could be misregistration of the 2 layers, and due to misregistration, the overlaying process can give you misleading results. Secondly, this error of propagation can also occur if you have 2 features or 2 raster layers whose spatial resolution is not same. Suppose you have a MODIS layer whose resolution might be 250 meters, while a Landsat data which has a spatial resolution of 30 meters. So you cannot overlay these 2 separate raster data on top of each other until and unless you resample a lower resolution image to a higher resolution or a higher resolution image to a coarser resolution. So you need to have both the images or the features on the same spatial resolution. Otherwise, whatever you sample or overlay, you will not be getting the correct results. So overlaying is an important technique in GIS, but you have to be careful about its overlaying errors. In the end, to summarize, GIS overlay operations are really important for spatial decision making, and you must have understood how to do overlay operations like utilizing Boolean algebra or simple overlaying for clipping, erasing, or splitting a polygon or a raster data through utilization of a polygon. Another important factor of overlaying is your multi-criteria evaluation or another weightage analysis. Although these weightage analyses have their own issues of giving the weightage, which is a very subjective thing, and it depends on the expertise who is using it. And secondly, these weightages are also important to understand that they can vary depending on your requirement, that whether it has to be for any plantation study or flood mapping or groundwater potential zone. So the same layers can have different ranking, different weightages based on what is required. This is what was discussed in this module, and 3 or 4 reference books have been mentioned in your e-text, and I am sure you would like to read them more and get used to how this GIS can be used for overlay spatial analysis. Thank you.